For most of the last 30 years, the Detroit Lions have been a poverty franchise, but here they are now in the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991. The Lions' rise to their best season in over 30 years started when Brad Holmes took over as the general manager in 2021. He turned this team around by drafting well, making smart free agent signings, and bringing in a coaching staff that could develop a great rapport with the players. The first move Holmes made was to trade Matthew Stafford to the LA Rams for the younger Jared Goff. Goff was the Rams' former #1 overall pick who seemed to have peaked in his third year at just the age of 24, and the Rams had lost so much faith in him that they were willing to add 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick while also taking a $24 million dead cap hit due to the extension they gave Goff in April of 2019 to bring in the more experienced and consistent Stafford, who was coming off his 8th season with at least 4,000 passing yards. Holmes was previously in the Rams organization for almost 20 years and was instrumental in the decision to trade up to the #1 overall pick to draft Goff in 2016, and still believed in Goff when no one else did.
Stafford was getting traded to the Rams, but I never forget Les asked me, he was like, do you want Jared in this trade? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, absolutely. Like, it wasn't like, just give me any quarterback. No, I was like, no, I want Jared in this trade.
At first, it seemed like the Rams clearly won this trade by a landslide. They won the Super Bowl while the Lions finished their season 3-13-1. Even with such a terrible first season under the new GM and coaching regime, there was light at the end of the tunnel. One of the main reasons the Lions fired Matt Patricia after just 2 seasons as their head coach was that he created a toxic environment in the Lions locker room. Dan Campbell was once an NFL player himself, so perhaps that's something that helps him connect with the players more than other head coaches, and the passion he'd coach with every week would rub off on his players. Another reason there was light at the end of the tunnel was that the Lions absolutely nailed the 4th round of the 2021 NFL draft by taking Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was already the team's leading receiver as a rookie, something that was being overlooked. Meanwhile, their previous #1 receiver Kenny Galladay wasn't re-signed, and that turned out to be a great decision for the Lions as he was a shell of his old self on the Giants, making him one of the worst contracts in NFL history. Derek Barnes was another steal the Lions drafted in the 4th round, but his impact would be made years later. Alex Anzalone was acquired from the Saints before the season and would lead the team in tackles in the following 2 seasons. The Lions also drafted their all-pro right tackle Penei Sewell in the 1st round of that draft with the 7th overall pick to give Goff some much needed protection since Stafford was the 7th most sacked quarterback in the league in his final season in Detroit. What else may not be talked about much is the fact that their star center Frank Ragnow, who made the Pro Bowl and All-Pro 2nd team the previous year, was placed on injured reserve just 4 games into the 2021 season. In November of 2021, the Lions claimed Josh Reynolds off waivers, and as a guy who played for the Rams while Jared Goff was there, they already had some rapport, and Reynolds would prove during his time with the Lions that he can be a good complementary receiver for them. The abysmal 3-13-1 record that the Lions had in 2021 landed them the 2nd overall pick, which they used to draft Aidan Hutchinson to bolster their pass rush on a defense that gave up the 2nd most points in the NFL. The Lions also drafted Jameson Williams with the 12th overall pick, but he needed a year before he was able to develop into an impactful player. Before the 2022 season, the Lions fired Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator after the team was just 25th in points and promoted their pass game coordinator Ben Johnson to be the new offensive coordinator. And this was probably the best thing for Jared Goff since Lynn was a running back and Johnson was a college quarterback. Johnson would bolster Goff's confidence during a time everyone counted him out by building around Goff's strengths, such as his ability to dominate underneath and over the middle, which would lead to Goff putting up the most passing yards he's had in a season since 2019 and his most touchdown passes since 2018. The Lions started the 2022 season just 1-6. On the surface, it seemed like there was no way up, but the first 4 games the offense scored 35 points per game. Their defense was among the worst in the league, but this was due to multiple injuries. With Penei Sewell breaking out and Frank Ragnow healthy, Goff had much better protection as he went from being the 11th most sacked quarterback in 2021 to 27th in 2022. The offense did slump in weeks 5 and 7 as they got shut out by the Patriots in Foxborough and lost 24-6 in Dallas coming off the bye week. After losing one more game to the Dolphins at home 31-27, this team flipped the script and finished 9-8 with their offense averaging 28 points per game while their defense was giving up just over 20 points per game, 14 less than what they were giving up during their 1-6 start. How their defense got so much better in the second half? John Comiskey, who was an offseason acquisition from the Falcons, got healthy, and he had 3 sacks and 12 quarterback hits in the Lions' 8-2 finish to the season. Their 6th round pick James Houston also came out of nowhere and had 8 sacks in the last 7 games of the season. Unfortunately, Houston's been injured for most of this season, but he sure had a lot to do with how the defense flipped the script last season. This team not giving up and still staying in playoff contention after a 1-6 start says a lot about how the team wanted to go to war for Dan Campbell. It's also why you should never lose games on purpose for a better draft pick and see things through even if you have a bad record. You build culture that way. They may not have gotten a top 10 draft pick by winning those last 8 games, but still missing the playoffs. However, they started building a culture that would carry into this season by not tanking after their 1-6 start. Their fans have also suffered enough and even had to endure a winless season in 2008, a team Dan Campbell played for, so I would only think he knows the fans who pay their hard-earned money deserve better than to see anything even close to as bad. Before this season started, the Lions replaced Jamal Williams, who went to the Saints after leading the league in rushing touchdowns last season for the Lions, with David Montgomery, who they signed from the Bears, and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th overall pick to give the Lions the 5th best rushing attack in the NFL, even with Jared Goff not having much to do with it in the era of the rise of the dual threat quarterbacks. The Lions also made a great 2nd round pick by drafting Sam Laporta, who would make the Pro Bowl and All-Pro second team as a rookie while setting franchise records for receptions, touchdowns, and receiving yards by a rookie tight end. Amon-Ra St. Brown would also be tied with Tyreek Hill for the 2nd most receptions in the league with 119, while also 3rd in receiving yards and catching 10 touchdown passes. With Josh Reynolds being a reliable 3rd option, Jameson Williams proving he can be a deep threat too, not just a possession receiver, and Khalif Raymond, who may be best known for returning punts, also made a few big plays as a receiver with his speed. They would all help Jared Goff have the highest completion percentage of his career and his first 30 touchdown season since 2018. Ben Johnson's offense also ran the 8th most screen passes with the 3rd highest success rate, which I learned from Alex Rowland's video according to Sports Info Solutions. This offense also has a lot of 2 tight end sets, but only Laporta was a real threat for Goff to throw to, while the other tight ends were used as blockers. Another thing that helped the Lions offense is their 2nd ranked offensive line according to PFF, with Frank Ragnow, who's been with the team since 2018, as the best ranked center in the league. This time the Lions came roaring out of the gates as they had their best start since 1962 at 8-2, including an upset over the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs in the first game of the season. The Lions would finish the year 12-5, which was good enough to win them the NFC North for the first time since 1993, the year I was born. Their defense was better than last year, and they were particularly great at stopping the run. The last 4 games of the season, the Lions only gave up a little more than 20 points per game. They also only had 3 games where they gave up 30 plus points this season as opposed to 5 last season, and didn't give up 40 plus points at any point in the season. They gave up 48 to the Seahawks last season. Jack Campbell, who was drafted 18th overall in the 2023 draft, was also quite a nice addition to the Lions defense as he had the 2nd most tackles on the team. The Lions' first playoff game since January of 2017 would end up being against Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford actually delivered on Eminem's request.
Stafford, what'd I say? You owe me this favor, bro. I was there for you when you won it. I was there for you. I was right there. I rapped for you, Stafford. Bro, I rapped for you. Can you just let us have this one? Just this one.
The Lions beat the Rams by 1 point. Then against the Buccaneers, the Lions put together a well-balanced attack. No one on the Lions had over 100 receiving yards, but the ball was spread out very well, and Jahmyr Gibbs especially had a really good game with 74 yards on the ground and a touchdown, while also catching 4 passes for 43 yards. What else helped the Lions that may not be talked about in the future is CJ Gardner-Johnson, who the Lions signed as a free agent in the offseason, tore his pectoral in week 2, but returned in time for the playoffs and intercepted a pass from Baker Mayfield that would eventually lead to the Lions scoring their first points of the divisional game. Derek Barnes, a guy who wasn't even guaranteed a roster spot going into the season, made the game-winning interception to secure the Lions' first trip to the NFC Championship since 1991. I wasn't even born yet last time they made it there. That's it for today's video. What do you think? Will the Lions pull off the upset against the 49ers? Please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, and if you can consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss another video, that would be much appreciated. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for your support as always. If you'd like to see my most recent video and the one that YouTube recommends, both are up above. Oh, just a little reminder that the Lions have been to the NFC Championship more times than the Dallas Cowboys since the turn of the century. Take that for data. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Now everybody from the 313, put your motherfucking hands up and follow me. Everybody from the 313, put your motherfucking hands up.